Hi everyone, welcome to the series Java, Learn Java in Depth. Today we are going to discuss about remaining part of the control statement. So in my previous video, we have discussed some of the part of the control statement. So let's see. So these are the types of the control statement available in Java. So we have already discussed about the if-else statement, do while statement, for loop statement. And I have already included that video link in my details section. So today in this video we are going to discuss the remaining part that is so let's see the first statement that is like nested loop statement. So let's say we have a loop called this. This preceding for loop gets executed for 3 times by changing the I value from 1 to 3, right? So let us take the another example, another loops. For example, this. So this loop is executed 4 times by changing the value of I value here, right? If we write this loop inside the proceeding, so we can write this loop inside this loop like this. So this is the for loop statement, and then this is the statement, first loop statement, and then another for loop that is inside of this for loop, and then these are the statements. So this is called as nested loop. So how it is going to execute in this real-time scenario? So let us take an example and understand that, and then we'll see that one simple Java program to demonstrate it. So if you go to the IntelliJ, let's create one other class and give the name as nested for loop. Okay, and create the main method. Okay, so what we have created first loop is like int I equal to 0 to, or let's say 1 to I is less than equal to 3, and then I plus plus, and then we have given some statement. So let's say we have given statement something like system.out.println, and let's write this, um, say statement 1. Okay, and then we have created another one, right? And there we have, let's say we just change the variable name, we have, let's say j, and then give the name as statement 2. So basically, if we write two loops, so we will write like this, right? So this loop is going to be execute as 3 times by changing the I value, and then this statement is going to print like 3 times, right? When this loop is going to be execute, it is going to run 4 times, right? By changing the J value. So if you run this program, how many times statement 1 is going to print? 3 times, and statement 2 is going to print 4 times. So let's run this program and see the output. So this is basically simple loop. Then we will see how we can convert this simple loop to the nested loop, and we'll write another Java program to demonstrate also. So let's wait and see. Yeah. So if you can see here, the statement 1 is printed 3 times, right? And statement 2 is printed 4 times. So this is because these two loops are separate. So let's see how we can convert into the nested loop. So nested loop is nothing but loop inside another loop. So let's copy this and paste it inside this loop. So this is called nested loop basically, because inside this loop there is another loop. So what will happen, the execution flow, when so execution will be like this something. When value becomes 1, that is the first time, it will come inside, it will execute this statement 1 times, then it is going to execute this statement, and then it is going to execute this loop. So that time it will execute for, if j value is 1, that is first time, then j value is 2, that is also it is going to execute because this condition is true, and then it will, when j value is 3, and then when j value is 4. When j value is become 5, then this condition is will be failing, right? So at that time this loop will not execute, then it will execute the next statement. So for this loop basically, this was the first statement and this was the second statement. After executing this statement and this statement, it is going to increment the I value. So how it will become? So it will become like I equal to 2, right? Then again it will come, again execute this statement, and then again it will start this J loop from 1. So basically it is going to execute like this many times. I value becomes 2 now, then it will execute J value from 1 to 4. Then again it is going to iterate the same process for the I value 3. Then again it is going to iterate. So at that time I value becomes 4, then this condition will be false, right? So at the time the loop will complete, and then it will come out of the loop. So in this case, this statement basically is going to execute 3 times, right? But this statement is going to execute 12 times. So this is how we will write the nested for loop. Okay, let's run this program and see. So I think let's run this and see that how many times this statement has been executed and how many times this statement 2 has been executed. So yeah, you can see here the statement 1 executed, then statement 2 executed 4 times, then again statement 1 executed, and then again statement 2 executed 4 times, then again statement 1 executed, and statement 2 executed 4 times. So that is 4 multiplied by 3, that is nothing but the 12 times of this statement, right? So this is how nested loop will work. So now let's see with the simple Java programs. So we are going to write a simple Java program like, let's comment this out, and we are going to write the program like, we are going to print something star, then star this. So we are going to write a program to print this star in this format basically. So that is called triangle, right? So how we can do that using the nested loop? Basically this we can do using the nested loop only. So if you observe this condition, when I value is 1, we are executing this j value as a 4 times, 1 to 4 times. When I is value becomes 2, then also we are executing this loop as a 4 times. And when I value becomes 3, then also we are executing this statement as 4 times, right? So if we want to achieve the scenario, this if we want to print this matrix, how we can do it? Basically, what is the requirement here is, when I is become 1, instead of printing this value, this is statement basically. So let me first minimize this, then okay, this. So when we are printing statement 1, then we are printing statement, this 2 is 4 times, right? So in this case, what we can do, we no need to print this statement basically. It will come here, and then it will print this statement as 1 times, right? Then in the second loop, when I becomes 2, then we want to the print this statement 2 times. When third time this I becomes 3, then j value instead of statement 2, we will print this star as 4 times, and similarly the 5 times, right? So in this scenario, what you have observed, when the I value becomes 1, we are printing j value as 1 time, I value becomes 2, then j is printing 2 times, then when I becomes 3, then j we are printing 3 times. So it means that this loop, this condition, we can change something to run only the ith value is, whatever the ith value is there, that many times it should run it and print something. So that is nothing but the star. So let's write the sim that programs and see how we can achieve this one. So let's write, let's say, okay, something here, problem, anything that we are missing here. Looks like some error, basically, some braces error. Basically, we have added, we have not commented this one. So let's put it here. I think no. Yeah, we have added this one. That's why it is showing here. And let's comment it again. So it is going to comment this part only. Yeah. So let's write simple that program. So let's say how many i's value we want to print. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So here we have given 3, right? It means it is iterating 3 times. We want to print it in the 5 row, it means 5 times. So let's give some number like 4 int I equal to 1, and then I should run till I equal to becomes 5, right? And then I plus plus. Then when the I value becomes 1, we want to print that j value as a 1 times. When it is 2, then 2 times. 3 means 3 times, and so on. So let's write the same statement here also. So we'll use the for loop. Then let's create like j equal to 1. And this is the important part, right? We want to control that statement, the jth printing statement. It should print till the ith value. So I value become 1, so it should print like this. So what we can do here, so instead of writing the 5 here again, we can write like something. I mean j is less than equal to I, right? So it is going to print if it is a 1, so 1 time, 2 means 2 times from starting in the sense from 1 times, and then j plus plus. And let's print that statement. What statement that we want to print? That is nothing but star, right? Print that star. And also if you can observe, there are some spaces, right? We are expecting some spaces. So let's give that space here and here. Okay. S- So after printing this statement, after printing the jth value, what we want to do, we want to go to the next line, right? So to go to the next line, we can simply add the simple statement like system.out.println without printing anything. So it will come here, it will make it I equal to 1, then it will start printing this j value. So first time it will be okay, it is satisfying because this is 1 equal to j also is 1. So it will print 1 times. Then we want to go to the next line. Then again it will come to the ith value, it will be increment by 2. Then condition will be satisfied, 2 is less than equal to 5. Then it will come inside, again j value is 1, so it will print 1 times. And then again it will go to the j value is 2, then also it will print 2 times, and then it will come to the out of the loop, and then it will go to the next line using this statement, and similarly it will go on. So let's run this program and see the output. Yeah, so you can see that we are able to print this triangle, right? So this is the use of the nested loop. So if it comes across like this kinds of scenario, in that scenario we can use the nested loop. Now let's go to the next. What is the next control statement available in Java? That is for each loop. So for each loop is nothing but this is the enhanced loop of the all the available existing loop of the for loop basically. So this loop is specifically designed to handle the element of a collection. Okay, so collection represent a group of element. For example, we can take an array. So we will discuss more about the collections and array and all in the next upcoming video. Just understand that there is a concept called array which can hold the similar kinds of data, or there is a collection that having some different types of collection which can hold the multiple value. This loop is specifically designed to handle the element of a collection. Basically, this for loop will work on the collection type, and collection is nothing but to represent a group of elements. For example, we can take an array as a collection or any class in Java dot util package can be considered as a collection. The reason is that array store a group of element like integer value or a string value. Similarly, Java.util packages classes are developed to handle a group of objects. So we will understand more about the collection in next upcoming video. Just understand that how we can work. So the for each loop repeatedly execute a group of statement for each element of a collection. It execute as many times as there are the number of the element. For example, we have a collection and that collection contain let's say 10 element. So this for loop is going to execute that many number of time. So in this case, no need to provide any initial value or any conditional check or that incremented modified value. The syntax of the for loop something looks like this. So here we will provide the collection name. Automatically, it is going to return one value, and it's going to store in this variable, and then we will it will come inside here in the for loop, and then execute this statement. So here if you see, there is no initialization block or conditional or the incremental. Automatically is going to return one element, I mean one element at a time here, and then it will come inside the loop that many number of times. For example, this collection contains 10 elements, so it is going to execute automatically 10 times. So this is called for each loop, which is enhancement of the for loop. So let's see how we can do in our programming. So let's create another class to demonstrate it. So let's give the name as test for each loop, and create the main method. So as we have discussed, this for each loop is going to work on the collections or array type. So let's see how we can create the array. So declare an array with the five element. Let's say we are going to store the five elements. So how we can do? So let's say the arrays also can be of different types. It can be have a integer type or a string type or any other types also. Let's create an integer type array. So let's see how we can create the array. So it basically it will be the int, then variable name, and then square bracket. Basically, this denote that this element is this variable is a array type, and the value can be stored like this, some value. So let's say 10, 20, 30, 40, and 50, and that's it. So this is how we can create the integer array and store the element. Now let us see how we can use that for each loop for iterating this array basically and printing all the element. So before that, let's see if this array is there. This array can be used. So basically, this array we can use the traditional loops also to print it. So let's see how we can do using the traditional loop. So in traditional loop, how what we have to write? For int I equal to 0. Basically, we have to write 0 only because this is the array which is work on the indexing, and indexing start from the 0. So we have to start from the 0 only. Otherwise, we might get that exception like array index of out of bound if you want to access any element, any indexes which is not available. So that's why in case of array, we have to start the indexing from 0 because this indexing works on the 0 indexing. And then I value becomes I is less than this array dot length. There is a method called length that is going to return this size of the array. Don't worry about it. We will discuss in detail in upcoming video. And then I plus plus. So this is how we write, right? So here we have to write initialization part from where we want to start. Then we have to write conditional. Let's say this array length is going to return as a 5. So like 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. Till 4 we want to execute because from 0th index is this one, 1, 2, 3, and 4. But the length value is going to return as a 5. So, but there is no element in the fifth element, fifth index, right? So that's why we have given less than only, and then I plus plus. So that is nothing but going to increment one by one, and then we can print the statement like system dot out dot print, and to print the value of the array, we can write something like array and then index. So index value, let's say have declared that I variable that is treated as an index in this case. So we will pass this I value here. So by default, first time what will happen? The I value becomes 0. So it will try to access array of 0th index and it is going to print this value. And then second time I of second one value that is going to print this value. So let's execute this and see that output. Yeah, so if you can see, it has printed all the element up from the array. So if you observe that here we need to handle so many things. First of all, we need to initialize something starting that we have to remember like this is the indexing basis and it's starting from 0. So we have to start the indexing here something. Then we have to also make sure like this is not going to access the element or the index element which is not available. So that's why we have to make sure here like it should execute less than length minus array dot length, right? And then also we are incrementing it. So instead of writing or handling this all these conditions, there are loops called for each loop that is nothing but the enhanced for loop. So let's see how we can do using the enhanced for loop or for loop, for each loop. So for each loop is nothing but the syntax is similar, just we have to create here the variable. So what types of the element we are going to return one by one. So this is the syntax, right? Variable, then caller, and then collection. So in this case, let's say array, right? And this is what the syntax. So we need to declare this variable some types so that we can decide based on the type of the collection. So in this case, this array is a of integer type. So this variable name we can give as a integer type. So what will happen? Automatically it is going to return first element, then second element, fourth element, fifth element, means till the number of the element available. So there is no explicitly check that from where we need to start and from where we need to end it. So it's very simple, right? As you can see. So if you write the statement, same statement, let's say the same statement. And here, since there is no array, there is no indexing concept. So to access the element, no need to write the array of some indexing. Directly print that variable only, because the value itself is going to return in this variable, right? So it is. Let's print this one and just run this. Let's comment this first and see the output. Yeah. So this you can see this is the similar output, right? And in the very simple steps. But it doesn't mean that this loop we don't need to use it. There is also use of this loop and this loop. So this loop basically going to return each and every element one by one, right? And but we don't, if we want to get the indexing of the element also, then in this case we cannot get it. There is a alternative mechanism. You can write some explicit variable, then increment one by one. But instead of that, if you want to get the indexes also, in some scenario, so you can go for the traditional one, otherwise go for this for each loop. So this is all about like for each loop. Let's move ahead and see the what are the next control statement available in Java. So next control statement available in Java is switch statement. So what is switch statement first? So when there are several options and we have to choose only one option from the available ones, we can use switch statement. Depending on the selection options, switch particularly task can be performed. A task represent one or more statement, nothing but the one or more statement. So what is the syntax of the switch loop? So this is the statement, this is the syntax basically of the switch statement. So we will write here some variable. That variable is nothing but is going to match with this value only. So what are the value we are going to provide here? It is going to match basically. So if you see the syntax of the switch statement, it is says that switch, then some variable, then there are some multiple cases, case value 1, value 2, value 3, value 4, and so on. Basically number of and so on basically, and then default. So what will happen? What are the value you are going to provide here? It is going to match with this case value, and whichever is the value it is matches, it is going to execute those statement. Okay, and then it is going to execute the last default one. If the default one is the optional one, if there is no default one, it is not going to execute. If it is there, so that is going to execute always without any condition. So let's write a simple Java program and see how we can use this switch statement in the real-time scenario. So let's go to the IntelliJ and then it will be more clear if you write a simple Java program and see the uses. So let's say um, test switch statement, and then let's say main method. So let's write simple Java program, like write a program using a switch statement to execute a particular task depending on the color value. So let's say we have some list of the color. That color we want to provide it, and based on the color it matches, it should execute the statement that we have written. So how we can do it? So let's say we have a variable called character, and let's say we have given color as G. Let's suppose that G is the color we are going to provide inside the switch block, and we have a switch statement something like let's say switch, and then let's say give the color, right? The here should be one variable, and then cases. So let's say we have a cases like case something called R, some cases R represent, let's say what is going to be represent R. So let's print some statement system.out.println red. So let's say we have a multiple cases here, and each letter denotes some value. So let's say 4, 5 something, and then at last let's say default. So again there should be some statement. So let's say if we are supplying this color value as something G, then it should print that something called green. This simple example basically, and let's say some first of all this cases should be unique. If you can see, it is throwing compile time error. Let's say B. If we given B, so it should print like black. If we have given some other character, let's say W, so it should print white, right? Otherwise, it default it should print like no color. So here this color we have set it right. So let's say this is like set color as G. So if you execute this program, what will happen? This color value is going to pass it here, and what are the value we have provided here? That value is going to match any of the cases. If it has matches, what will happen? It will execute this statement. So since there is a only line of statement, so no curly bracket is required. Otherwise, we have to write something like start the curly bracket and end the curly brackets, something like this. This is also similar. So let's run this program and see the output. So if you can see, it is printing green. So what happened? It comes here, it searches like, okay, color value is R or not? No, it is not. Then it reached to the here, G. Then it is printed this statement. Then again it go to the here, case B. So automatically, basically executing after this case, it is executing all this case, right? It is not checking this case basically. Why? Because there is a one more concept called break that we have seen some in the previous video, right? Because in a proper scenario, when we are providing G, it should print only this case, and then it should break it, because if you are not breaking it, it continuously going to print all the statement without checking the condition. That's why it's happening here. Green, black, white, and no color. So what we want, once this statement has been executed, we don't want to execute anything else. Just break it, right? Similarly here also. So since this becomes two statement, so we need to provide some curly bracket. And similarly here also. So let's make it to the next line and then break. And then curly bracket, start, and then break. And then this one anyway we don't want, so it automatically will come here, and since it's break, so it is not going to execute. So let's run this program. Okay, let's write here also break statement. So what we are trying to do here is, when whatever the color value we are supplying, we want to print those statement which matches this color, right? So it matches G only, so it is going to print G only, and hopefully it is not going to print this default one. Yeah, so if you can see, it is printing only green, and then it has break. Break means similar to the other for loop. When we provide the break statement, it is going to break the loop, and then it is going to come out of the loop. So this is the another types of loop only. So here we are providing some value. So it is something like based on some cases. So in real time scenario, if you see in the calculator, if you plus the plus operation, so it is going to perform the plus. What are the two value you have given? Similarly, you can define like this here also. And the break statement you have seen, Basically, the break statement can be used inside some looping because the intention of the break statement is nothing but to break that some what are the flow of the execution and come out that loop. So that is only is going to be work on the for loop, do while loop, and at last switch case. So this is how we can define the programs and use that switch statement. So similarly, if you want to supply, let's say the value, the cases does not match. So what are there? R is there, G is there, B is there, and W is there. Let's say we supply like A. So in this case, it is going to match here. It is matching or not? No, 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 and last no. So if none of the case has matches, it is going to execute this default case. But if any of the cases matches, like in case of earlier, green has matches, then it will break it. So it is not going to execute default use case. So let's see in action. Let's run the program. So you see, no color means whatever the color that we have provided, that does not match any of the cases and is printing the default case that is no color. So this is how you can use that switch case or switch statement. Let's move ahead and see what are the next statement is available. So break statement. You have already seen the syntax of the break, how we can apply it, and how we can use that break statement, right? So basically there are three cases. First cases is break is used inside a loop to come out of the loop. And second case is break is loop inside the switch block that we have seen just now to come back out of the loop block. And the third case is break can be used in nested block to go end of the block. Meaning, in our previous video, right, where we have seen nested for loop here. So let's say this block only. So what will happen? It is going to the I value 1, then the j value is printing from one value, and then I value 2, then well it's going to print that two times. So in some of the scenario, let's say what after executing some number of the times, we want to break it. So instead of printing every time from 1 to 2 or the ith value, we want to break it, right? So in that case, we can write some logic here and write the statement like break. So what will happen? This will break only this for loop, not the outer for loop. Basically, this is called outer for loop and this is called inner for loop. So if you write the break statement inside the inner for loop, so based on some condition or whatever how we are going to implement, so it is going to break this for loop and it is going to come out of the loop means this loop. So it will go to the outer loop and then it will execute this statement. So this is how we can use inside the for loop, and we have already seen how we can use inside the switch statement. So we have used so the so you know, right, you can see what is the advantage and using of this break statement if, because in case of switch that is mandatory. Basically, if you are not going to use, so it is going to execute after matching the condition, it is going to execute all the cases without matching the condition. Like earlier we have seen G has matched, it has print that green statement, and after that this statement has been executed automatically without checking the condition. So that's why the break statement is important. So this is all about the break statement. So basically, if you compare the C and C++, so in C++ we have something called goto statement, right? So that is not available in Java. Instead of that, we have available break statement. We'll see the differences in one of the topics basically. So let's move to the next statement that we have available in Java. So next statement is what? Continue statement. So continue statement, what is the continue statement and what is the syntax? So basically syntax of the continue statement is similar to the break statement only. When continue statement is executed, subsequent statement in the loop are not executed and control of the execution goes back to the next repetition of the loop. So basically if you have seen that this break statement, right? Or let's go to the nested for loop for better understanding. What will happen if this condition matches, or we will simply write a simple another Java program to demonstrate it clearly what I'm trying to say. Let's say test uh, continue statement. So let's write simple Java program for basically this is going to be used inside the loop only. Let's take an example of for loop. So int I equal to 1, and then I is less than equal to let's say 10, and then I plus plus this. Okay, something we have missed it. So I think main method we have not created. Let's create the first main method and then this, because main method is mandatory to execute the program basically. And let's write some statement here. System dot out dot println. Let's print this I value basically. So basically what it is going to print, it is going to print from 1 to 10, right? So I value is going to print 10 times. Yes. So you can see it is printing from 1 to 10, right? So let's say we have a requirement that is saying that if I value becomes 5, we don't want to print it. Right? So we are printing every time here. So if we write the condition something like, so let's say this program is printing from value from 1 to 10, right? Let's say we have a scenario this type and we want to print the value till the I value becomes 5, and after that we don't want to print it. So how we can use the break statement in this scenario? So we'll write something like if I is then less than equal to, I mean greater than equal to 5, and then we don't want to print anything. Before that we want to print it. So we'll write a statement something like system.out.println and then I value. So what will happen once I value becomes 1 in the first time, it will come here. I 1 is greater than equal to 5 or not? No, it is not. And then it will come to the next statement because this block has not been executed. It is because of this failure condition. Then it will execute the value. Then again it will go to the 2, then 3, then 4, and then 5. So if you see I value is greater than equal to 5, this condition satisfied, it will come inside and it will break it. So break means it will break the loop, right? So which one is the loop? This is the loop, and it will come outside of the loop. Then it will not go to the another value like I value becomes 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So this is how we can use the break statement, right? So if you execute this program, you will see that it is going to print the value from 1 to 4, right? 1, 2, 3, and 4. After once it become 5, we don't want to print it, so we have used like break statement. But what what if we want to instead of breaking the loop, we want to continue printing the element, but we don't want to print the value when I becomes 5. So let's see how we can use the break continue statements. Basically, what is the definition of the continue statement? Continue statement is used inside a loop to repeat the iteration of the loop. When continuous execution, subsequent statement in the loop are not executed. Basically, if we write something like here instead of break, when this statement has been executed, it is not going to execute the subsequent statement. But in case of break, it is not only going to execute the subsequent statement, also it is going to break the loop. So in continue case, only it is going to skip the subsequent statement. So what will happen when I is 1, it will check the condition. Okay, false, it is going to here print it. Then I becomes 2, then it is going to check the condition. Okay, true, then it will print the statement. When I becomes 3, then also they repeat the statement, same statement. Once I becomes 5, it will come inside, it will execute this statement. So after executing this continue statement, instead of printing this statement, what it will do, it will skip this and it will go to the next iteration. So when I becomes 6, 6 is greater than 5 or not? Yes, it is 5. Then also it will come in here, continue, and then it will not print the statement. It will go to the next one. So instead of checking the greater than, if we can check the I equal to 5, so what will happen when I becomes 5, it is not going to print this value. It is going to move to the cursor to the next statement. And then when I becomes 6, then this condition becomes fail, then it will print it. Basically, what we are doing here, we are skipping the I value becomes 5. So if we run this program, what will happen? It is going to print the value 1 to 4 and then skip the 5 and then 6 to 10. So if you observe the output here, 1 to 4 and then 6 to 10. What happened when when I becomes 5, when I becomes 5, it came here inside, it executed this continuous statement. So what is the meaning of executing the continuous statement? Meaning it is going to skip the next statement. So next statement is nothing but this statement to print that it went to the here and then increment it, then again come inside, then the I becomes 6 and then this condition is false, then false means it will go to the next statement, and next statement is nothing but to print the value. That's why it has printed 6 and 7 and so on. So this is the use of the break and continue. This is very useful statement in some of the scenario. Let's say we want to skip in only one scenario and perform all the other scenario, we can go for the continue. But if you want to perform some operation like uh, after that certain condition, we don't want to execute anything, so we can go for the continue statement. For example, if we have a let's say we have an array and we want to search some element, right? So let's say we have array with the 10 element and we found the element on the fifth position. So after finding the element, we don't want to search further, right? So in that kinds of scenario, we will check the condition like element equal to that particular element. If it found, just break it. We don't want to search further and come out of the loop. So in such scenario, we can use break statement. So that's all about the continue statement. Let's move to the next control statement, that is nothing but the return statement. So what is the return statement? We know that a method is a function written inside a class, right? That contain a group of statement and perform a task or processing. It means a method is useful to perform certain calculation, right? Or a processing of the data in a program. So if we want to perform some operation, if we write some method, we will discuss in detail what is the method, what is the syntax and all, and what is the uses of that. So let's say there are some method concept. When we call that, we have write some logic. When we call that method, we will expect some output also. So in that scenario, we will use this return statement. So return statement is nothing but that is going to return the value that is basically used inside the method. So let's say we have a scenario, something called we want to write a program to return the method, right? So let's say write one simple methods. We will discuss it in detail about the method. But here let's say write one simple Java class, test the return, test return statement, and write the main class. So let's say we have created some method to perform some addition of the two number. Okay, so how we can write it? So static, since this is a inside the class, we don't want to create the object of the class. So static int. What is the int? Int is nothing but the return type. And then let's say sum, and it's expecting two value. Let's say int a, int b. So when we call this method by passing these two argument, so let's say 10 and 20. We are expecting, if we're providing the 10 and 20, we are expecting like do the addition and return the resultant. Means we are expecting something. So in that scenario, we can use the return statement. And what types of the return statement that we have to write? That is nothing but what are the expectation one. So since here we have given integer, it means that it is going to return the value as a return type. So how we can write this return statement? Nothing but this return, and let's say we want to do a plus b. So what will happen when you call this method? It is come here, it will do the operation, and then using this statement, it is going to return of type value whatever we have written here. So how can we call this method? Directly we can call sum and pass that value. Let's say we are passing as 10 and 20. So when we call this, and so it is going to return something. So if we are returning and we are storing some in some variable, so that is going to return some resultant, right? So let's create another variable, let's say result equal to. So what will happen? It will going to call this sum method with this two argument. It will perform this operation and then it will return the value. That value, it is going to be of type int. So that's why we have created the resultant variable as int, and it is going to store. So if you print this, let's say system.out.println and then result. So if you run this program, what will happen? It is going to give the resultant means emission of these two number. So it is going to print as 30. Yeah. So this is the uses of the return statement. Means if we are calling some methods and we are expecting something, in that scenario we will write something return statement. So this is how all about the control statement in Java. In next upcoming video, we are going to discuss about the inputs and output, meaning how we can take the input from the keyboard. So stay tuned. We'll meet you soon. Thank you.